Happy Wellness Wednesday. It's Robin and Kim here. Today, first of all, we want to say happy Valentine's Day to get us started, right? So, happy Valentine's Day. I have my
Love your
Valentine's
shirt.
shirt
Thank
on.
you.
But today, Kim and I are going to talk about something that's a little personal for us, and that it is Children of Alcoholics Awareness Week. So we had talked about bringing this to our wellness talk before, and then I read this. It's the awareness week, so what better time to talk about it than now? So before we start, we just want you to know this is going to be more about the psychological effects of being a child of an alcoholic rather than the physical, because we know that there's fetal alcohol syndrome. There are also other things that come from being a child of an alcoholic that affect your cognitive skills. We really don't have that problem, not too much anyway, just the normal. But we don't. That has not affected us in any way. This is more of the psychological. So I'm going to start out just kind of giving some statistics, and they're like any other statistic that we're giving you. They always blow my mind, right? So, children of alcoholics are 4 times more likely than other children to become alcoholics. And believe me, I always have that at the back of my mind. You know, I knew that statistic before and have heard it before, so that I always keep that at the back of my mind. 28.8 million adults, 28.8 million. I just wanted to say it again. Ages 18 and older, that's 11.2%, have alcohol use disorder. 17.1 million men, that's 13.6%, and 11.7 million women, that's 8.9%. And out of those, less than 10% receive treatment.
Wow.
Yeah, I was like, whoa. And then approximately 10.5%, which is 7.5 million of US children ages 17 and younger, live with a parent who has alcohol use disorder. And I think that's interesting, Kim. And Kim and I, when we met, you know, we started to get to know one another. We discovered this about ourselves, that we both had alcoholic fathers. And I think more often than not, if you start talking to people, you're going to find that you could have that in common with them, and you're not alone. And it's good not to feel alone. So
Yeah,
I'll let you start, Kim, with your
sure.
story.
Sure. And, you know, it's funny, and I'll talk about my dad, and he talked about it freely as well, because he knew he had a problem, and he didn't mind telling me the story and being open about it. And he eventually stopped drinking and became he was a non-drinking alcoholic in his 40s. But I remember, you know, I don't remember a lot actually. You know, when my parents got married, he was an alcoholic, and then, you know, they were married for 10 years and then split up and got divorced. But I do remember him not being around that much, and there was never abuse or anything like that, but just I remember feeling more abandoned than anything, I would say. And that has stuck with me. That's one of the things that has, like, I've dealt with as an adult. Like, if I were somewhere and I can't find my family, I'm like, I feel abandoned, you know, and that's happened a couple times. And I'm like,
Yeah.
what's wrong with me?
Yeah.
And it's funny because I always knew, and so drinking for me was, you know, I tried it in high school, of course, with my friends, and then went to college, and, you know, went to beer keggers and all that kind of stuff. To be honest, I never really liked beer, never liked the taste of like an alcohol like that, but I would like mixed drinks, you know, were fun because they were sweet and you couldn't really taste the alcohol. And anyway,
Right.
but when, you know, when I got married young and started having kids, and I was like, okay, it was just, alcohol wasn't a thing. And I knew I always wanted to marry somebody who wasn't a drinker. And that was always in the back of my mind. And so, and I did, which I'm so thankful for. But it's funny how I hadn't thought about, it's funny how things get triggered where remember some instances where you're like, oh, that happened. And it takes you back into your childhood and you're like, whoa, But on the other hand, I feel like I didn't carry all the trauma with me, if that makes sense. I mean, sure, there's things I wish were different. Things were different when I was a kid, um, but then I found out later there were other alcoholics in my family as well. My grandmother and then a stepfather, and it was like, so I was around it a lot as a
Yeah.
kid. And I
Yeah.
think that's why when I got married, it was like, okay, I don't want to be around it. And so I think that's how uh, I kind of like dealt with it. And I said, okay, then, as a kid, you don't have a lot of choices or options in your environment, but
Right.
when you become an adult, then you do you can make those options, make those choices.
Yeah.
So Robin, what about you?
So, of course, I like looked this up before we started because I was just like interested to see, how many and like what the feelings were. And something that I found was like what you had said, like abandonment. That is number one on my list. Like, because my dad just wasn't there. He was always gone.
Mm,
And my parents divorced when I was 12. So I had him at home about as much as you.
yeah.
But I had like embarrassment. I felt dysfunctional, not only because of the alcoholism, but more because my parents got divorced. And it
Mm,
was like embarrassing and like I felt like I didn't have a normal family. Um, I felt self-hatred because I
I
felt
can
like it,
relate to that.
yeah, and I felt like I didn't like I felt like it was my fault. And
Mm,
what I read was a lot of kids feel that way. Um, and I felt like a victim too. Like a lot of times I used that and was like, woe is me. Why don't I have the beaver cleaver dad? Why is my life, why can't I just have a mom and dad and be normal? Why can't they be normal? But after emotional intelligence, and listen, I was 58 years old when I finally got rid of a lot of the abandonment
yeah.
issues and the non-love and
Mm,
the um the worthiness, like finally, and forgiving him. You know how they
mm,
say like forgiveness, not forgiving people is worse on you? Guess what?
yes.
It is, because finally, when I was like 59 years old, I called my dad and I said, this is how I feel. This is how you made me feel. And I forgive you. And
Mm,
so like it was the biggest weight lifted. And I don't feel that way anymore because there's a reason that they're alcoholics and it
mhm.
has nothing to do with us. It's something from their past. And I finally realized that. And it does take a long time. And I feel like siblings, I don't know about your siblings, but it affects each sibling a little differently. Like I
Mhm.
looked up the personality types and it says there are enablers. Some
Yep.
children are enablers, some are
Mhm.
heroes, some are scapegoats, some are lost children, and some are mascots. So I don't know, Kim, with you, like, do you feel like you were one or another?
It's fine. Well, I was the firstborn. I'm the oldest, so I was kind of the overachiever one and the one that was the goody two shoes and
Yeah, yeah,
trying to keep the family together, I guess, more so than my sister and brother.
yeah.
Um, but yeah, I didn't know that about it. I should look into that a little bit more and
I
read more
know,
about
right?
that.
So
Yeah,
the
because it's
hero,
really
that's what
interesting.
you say, like a hero. That's what you kind of,
Okay.
that's what I was too, because I always felt like I had to do more. And that's another
Mhm.
thing that I looked up, and it's so interesting. And I have an arrow here and it says, interesting. Children of alcoholics are more prone to procrastination.
Oh,
I, I know. And
great.
it's because you're never taught how to solve problems in a systematic, manageable amounts. We always want to get everything done and do everything. And I know my personality is that way. And Kim, I know you. I've known you long enough that I know you're like the same way as me. And then
Oh,
the other one is workaholics.
oh, yep.
And,
Yeah.
we always have to prove our worth and we have to keep going and be
Mhm.
busy. And I'm like, oh my gosh, yes. And then impulsive, compulsive. So children
Uh,
and grandchildren of alcoholics, compulsive, impulsive. And I'm very impulsive. I don't know about compulsive, but more impulsive I am with things like, oh yeah,
Probably
let's do it.
both. Like I get some OCD for sure.
Yeah, yeah. And then I feel like because of everything that I went through in my life and how it affected me till I was 59 years old, which, is whatever, I was very vigilant with the way that I raised my children. Now, I'm not like Kim, like I did not drink because I do drink. But
Mhm.
in the back of my mind, I'm always conscious of not over drinking and
Right.
being careful. And if I feel like, and I never wanted to get to a point. I knew, like, I never want to be like that so that my children have to be embarrassed or they have to be,
Right.
worried or upset. So I
Mhm.
was pretty
And
vigilant there.
I find that interesting, Robin, because the same, and I feel like, and Jim and I, we had 4 kids in 4.5 years, and there's no time for drinking.
Oh,
And
yeah. Yeah.
anyway, but we just never got in the habit of it or going to bars, or we're not like that. And so, and it's not a priority to us, but not to say Jim will drink wine. I'm pretty much a non-drinker because it just
Hmm.
does, I don't, it doesn't agree with me. I don't metabolize alcohol well.
Right.
And so it's okay. I'm okay with that. But and I wonder in the back of my mind though, if I'm just really totally turned off by what
Yeah,
I
I'm
lived
sure.
with as a young person. And so maybe there's something back there in my subconscious that,
Hmm.
you know, informs that as well.
I'm
So,
sure.
but it's really interesting. And I loved when we kind of divulged that to each other, that both of our dads were alcoholics. It's kind of like, wow, it brought up some stuff that we probably hadn't thought about.
Right.
And just as an adult, it's easier to work through it and to understand the,
And to
yeah,
push it
just
down and to
push it
push it
down.
down.
But to actually talk about it was good. But to be able to not dwell or think, well, it was me, like you said,
Yeah.
like to think, oh, well, why didn't I get the Beaver Cleaver dad type of thing?
Yeah.
But anyway, there's no perfect dad, but there's a
No.
lot of good ones out there.
Yes. And, and I'm not saying like,
And we're married to them.
yes, and I feel like too, like like my siblings look at it differently, So they had a
Mhm.
totally different experience. We were 4 years apart, and I'm 8 years older than my brother. So
Okay.
his experience is totally different than mine, and that's okay too. You know,
Yeah.
Mine being the oldest, it was different. And unless you're in your other sibling's shoes,
Mhm.
you have no way of knowing and feeling any
Right.
different. But to talk about it is good, people. So if you're out there and you're an adult and you are feeling what we're feeling, talk
Mhm.
about it to a friend. Feel free to hit me up, hit Kim up. We're open, and it does feel better to like just to know you're not alone. And then also, I'm going to put in the comments. There is a helpline for issues with alcohol, and I'm going to put the number in there because there could be people out there that are like, "Oh my God, that's me. I
Mhm.
don't want to be like this." And so we'll put that there. But I'm
Yeah.
glad we
Thank you.
had this opportunity to.
Yeah, we've wanted to do this call for a while and talk about this, and I think it's important, and it's not maybe not talked about enough. And I'm sure there are
Mhm.
support groups out there for children of adult children of alcoholics, but
There are, and you know what? It's COA. I'll put the link to their website there. There's so many studies and information on getting help or like answering questions
mhm.
um, at that link. So I'll put that. And Kim, I think you said you listened to a.
Yeah, they're doing a presentation every day this week at I think 11 a.m. Eastern time. And today it was on, and I missed the first part of it, but it was on visualization and turning a negative mindset into a positive mindset. It was really good, actually.
Can you put
Um,
that link in there? I couldn't find that. I tried to look for it, but I couldn't find it.
okay.
So if you
Oh,
could
you
put that
couldn't?
link in there
Yep,
too, then we'll do
yep.
that for people too,
And
because
so
I'd like to
they're,
listen to that myself.
yeah, they did one on Monday and Tuesday, and then they're doing one tomorrow and Friday because this week, a different speaker, and the guy this morning was really good. So yes, I'm happy to do that.
Good.
So yeah,
All
well,
right.
thank you. I was gonna say
Yep.
cheers, but
No. Everyone have a wonderful Valentine's.
Cheers to water. Yeah.
Yes.
Um,
And yeah,
and,
cheers.
and
Oh,
yes.
cheers.
There you go. Steelers. That's funny. Of course, you got to flash that.
Of course.
And we just want to say, we want you all to have a happy Valentine's Day, have fun, and live young. And we'll
Yes.
see you next week.
All right. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.